Hello everyone and welcome to Girls Game Shelf. I'm Monique from Before You Play, and today I get to teach you how to play a game called Magnate the First City, designed by James Naylor and published by Naylor Games. In Magnate the First City, we visit the town of Humbleburg, where players will try to amass a fortune by buying and selling property. The goal here is to buy plots of land and fill them with high-paying tenants before selling them for a much higher price. At one point, the market will crash, signaling the end of the game. The game plays anywhere from 1 to 5 players and takes about 60 to 120 minutes to play. But before we begin, I just want to point out that the components here are pretty much close to production, but might have some slight design changes in the final copy. And with that, let's start with setup. To set up, place the city center tile in the middle of the table and fill it with tenant tokens and buildings so that it looks exactly like this. Oh yeah, and don't forget City Hall. Then shuffle the neighborhood tiles and randomly place 6 of them around the city center so that their arrows match the direction of their neighborhood number. Shuffle and draw a number of for sale markers depending on the player count and place them on their corresponding plots according to their coordinates. All drawn markers that have a red slash through them should be discarded and replaced by another one. The rest of the for sale markers are placed in a supply face down along with the advertising tokens. Next, grab the property market board of the appropriate player count, set the land price slider at 300k and the crash marker on the 10th space of the slider, place the route tracker on the leftmost space, and fill the supply of available tenant tokens according to player count. Then, shuffle the new tenants and risk cards separately and place them face down next to the property market board. Lastly, give each player their own company's ownership markers with their matching wallet containing $2 million, 4 advertising tokens, and a player aid. Your table should look something like this. Now roll a die to determine first player, and you are ready to begin. Magnate the First City is played over a variable number of rounds, where each round consists of 4 phases: bidding for turn order, attracting tenants and collecting rent, the actions phase, and the property market phase, most of which you're going to be skipping your first round, mainly because you haven't really bought anything yet. So let's go straight into the actions phase and we'll discuss the rest of it later. Each round, players will take a total of 3 actions, starting with the player who has the first player marker and continuing clockwise. On your turn, you choose one of 5 different actions to take: buying land, building or rebuilding a property, advertising, consulting, and selling. You can perform each one of these actions multiple times during a round and in any order. So let's go over them. Buying land allows you to purchase a plot that has a for sale marker on it at the current land price, which will increase throughout the game. Alternatively, if the active player already owns a plot of land on the board, they can choose to purchase an adjacent plot without a for sale marker for twice the current land price. In either case, place a player marker on the plot to show that you own it. Once a building has been built on a plot, it can no longer be purchased. The build action allows you to build a property of your choosing for your empty plot of land. The price of each building type is listed on the player aid. Pay the amount shown and place the appropriate building on your plot of land, making sure to insert your company marker in the above slot. You can also take this action to replace a previously built property, since there can only ever be 1 property per plot. Next is advertising, which allows you to gain more of these advertising tokens. The first 2 are for free, and any additional token is 500k. And if you're ever feeling short on cash, you can take the consult action, which gives you money from the bank equal to the current land price. The last action has to do with selling property, which you probably won't be doing much of in your first round and will make more sense once you've learned a little bit more about the game. So we'll discuss this again later. After all players have completed their 3 actions during the first round, and assuming no one has sold any property yet, you can move to the property market phase by increasing the land price marker by 1. In future rounds, the property market phase will be much more involved in this, but we'll discuss this again later. Then go into cleanup for round 2, where the game will truly begin. To clean up, draw a number of new tenant cards and for sale markers as listed on the bottom right-hand side of the property market board. Add the indicated tenant type and quantity to your available supply, ignoring the section titled Subtype, and place for sale markers on the appropriate plots. Now, anytime you draw a marker with a red slash, or one whose plot already contains a building, you simply discard them and do not redraw. Also, the first player marker rotates clockwise. And now on to round 2. For the remainder of the game, players will start each round by bidding to see who goes first. Starting with the player who now has a first player marker and continuing clockwise, each player will take turns either bidding or passing. Bids start and are increased by a minimum of 100k. Once a player passes, they are out of the auction, and whoever bids the highest must pay their money to the bank. The next phase before we dive back into actions is the attract tenants phase, where we're going to be rolling dice to attract tenants and collect rent. To do this, first players choose a plot that they own with a building that has not yet met its tenant token capacity and place as many advertising tokens they would like to use on the chosen plot. Then, you must calculate how many dice to roll in order to attract tenants. Tenant token capacities as well as the dice chart are both located on your player aid. To calculate this, count the total population of the specified building type according to the chart that are either in the same neighborhood as your building or in an adjacent one. Once calculated, take the number of dice from the supply and roll them. Each advertising token placed on a plot prior to rolling changes one die of your choice to a 5. There are also neighbor bonuses and penalties. Tenants that are located in plots adjacent to the one you chose, including diagonals, affect your dice if they show a symbol that matches your property. Up arrows force you to add 1, while downward arrows subtract 1 from all of your dice. Although only one of each tenant type apply. After applying bonuses and penalties, consult your chart and see how many sets you're able to make. For each set, take a matching tenant token from the property market board and add it to your plot. Regardless of the result, all spent advertising tokens go in the proper section of the property market board. Repeat this process for each of your plots that you would like to attract tenants to. Afterwards, collect rent from all of the tenant tokens on your plots by taking money from the supply and placing it in your wallet, kept secret from other players. When everyone has completed this phase, continue into actions like we discussed earlier. To recap, the available actions are buying, building, advertising, consulting, and selling, which we are now ready to discuss. Now that you own a few plots and have attracted a few tenants, there will come a time in this game where you decide you'd like to sell. And selling properties at the right time in this game is the best way to earn a lot of money. To do this, choose a plot and calculate its value by following the formula on your player aid. 1 point for the land, 1 point for the building, 1 for each applicable adjacent neighbor or building bonus, 1 for each population icon, and -1 for each adjacent neighbor penalty. Then, multiply that value by the current land price and receive that much money from the bank. Lastly, remove your ownership token and place it on the leftmost available space of section 4 on the property market board. Remember to leave the building and tenants on the board. These cannot be repurchased. And last but not least, we have the property market phase. Now this is where things get a little dicey. If you look at the property market board, there are 4 different sections which you will have to evaluate in numerical order to determine whether you increase the land price and/or draw risk cards which dictate the length of the game. The first section has to do with the different tenant types remaining at the top of the property market board. The chart shows how many risk cards to draw depending on the number of token types that are still available. For example, if only 3 different types remain, then you must draw 1 risk card. Risk cards look like this. When you draw a risk card, move the Crash Track token down the slider the number of spaces shown in the section labeled Crash Track. Don't worry about the number at the bottom for now. We'll discuss it again at the end of the game. The next section tells you how many risk cards to draw depending on the colored zone that the land price is currently in. If the marker is currently in the yellow zone, you draw 1 card, and so on and so forth. The third section has to do with the number of advertising tokens that were spent that round. If not enough tokens were spent, draw and resolve a risk card. If enough tokens were spent to cause a land price increase, move the slider up by 1. Then remove all advertising tokens. The fourth and final section has to do with the number of plots sold by players this round. As players sell their plots during the actions phase, their company markers are placed in the leftmost open space in this section. Increase the land price by the value shown on the leftmost exposed space, and draw and resolve any risk cards as indicated. Afterwards, return all company markers to their owners. Once the crash marker reaches the last space of the crash track, the market crashes, signaling the end of the game. At this point, collect all risk cards drawn during the game and decrease the land price by the total price drop as indicated on the bottom half of the cards. All remaining properties are sold using the new land price. Then whoever has the most money wins. And that is how you play Magnate the First City. The game also comes with advanced rules using tenant subtypes, as well as an AI mode that replaces any player at any player count. So if you like what you see here, be sure to check out Magnate the First City on Kickstarter. Thanks for watching!